Hello everybody out there in YouTube land, and welcome to another custom campaign review here at Playing Board Games. This is my third custom campaign review, and with this one I'm going to try to not take longer than I need to. We're going to try to be concise and to the point. If you've seen some of the previous ones, you know I'm going to start with a spoiler-free review to start things off, and then I'm going to time mark it, boop, give you the time code for when the spoilers start happening, if you are interested in playing. The campaign that we are looking at and talking about today is Cyclopean Foundations. This is a fan-created campaign made by Beard, or The Beard. You may, if you know the custom content community here for Arkham Horror the card game, you may be aware that The Beard also made Alice in Wonderland, which is... I haven't got a review for it yet because I like to play a custom campaign twice before I give my thoughts on it. And when I played this the second most recent time, it had some changes to it. And from what I've gathered online from comments by Beard, that this is like pretty much close to, if not the final version of the game, of Cyclopean Foundations. So if you're looking at playing Cyclopean Foundations, now would be the time. Now would be the time. Cyclopean Foundations is inspired by Call of Cthulhu, and it also has influence from real-life events, conspiracy folklore, and other Arkham properties. This is not my own summary of it. This is one that's in the intro right here. So, because it's inspired by Call of Cthulhu, the big guy may or may not have an impact on the campaign, and potentially could even be involved. I really like Cyclopean Foundations. I think that while it may not be my favorite campaign in terms of gameplay, I do think that it is my favorite custom campaign in terms of story. The one that's close to it is Betrayal at the Mountains of Madness. This is a really good story. But we're here talking about Cyclopean Foundations, which I do think is my favorite story and also just general mood for a custom campaign. The story is really cool. I'm going to try to go as spoiler-free as I can here, so bear with me as I kind of put my thoughts in really slowly. It's all about conspiracy, and it's all about unraveling steps of a conspiracy and pieces of a conspiracy, and basically, like, the more you overturn, the more rocks you look under, the more you're going to be involved in the conspiracy, and people are going to start following you and trying to take advantage of you or hurt you in some way. It has a mood in its first scenario that is one of my absolute favorite moods in an opening scenario, including official content. And that mood, while it goes up and down for how it is, it's always kind of there. Arkham Horror, the card game, is generally very pulpy, right? I think we can all agree on that. Forgotten Age is like pulp to the nth degree. Dunwich, Carcosa, Circle Undone, Dream Eaters, Innsmouth, admittedly less pulpy, but there's still a little bit of pulp. Edge of the Earth also has pulp. It's kind of like a little bit pulpy, but it's like the least pulpy campaign that we've seen so far. Cyclopean Foundation is kind of like that. It's very grounded. It has its weird pulpy moments, of course, because this is Arkham Horror, the card game. However, it's a very quiet, kind of just subtle and somber telling of a story. There's not exactly any big, shocking twists. It's just an engaging conspiracy story with a lot of really cool beats to it. So if you like that kind, it's like a spy novel. I think that's the best way of putting it, right? It's like a Call of Cthulhu spy novel. And you're the main character, of course, but you're a main character in the dark, and you're going to uncover more as it goes. It's a really cool, and I think very successful attempt at telling a story like this. And I know Beard is part of the Playing Board Games Discord channel, and they've posted a lot of stuff there about their upcoming campaigns and all that. I do sincerely hope, well, they do sound cool. They sound very cool, what's in the pipeline. I do sincerely hope that Beard makes another custom campaign, because I really like what was accomplished with this campaign. I think it's really cool. And it has such a good flow. And it really feels as though it's going on a fun adventure. Okay, maybe it is a little bit pulpy. There is as you can see, there is a volcano erupting. So maybe I should go back and say it is still a little bit pulpy. But it doesn't it's not like that kind of in-your-face pulp fiction type thing, right? It's very much just like a little bit more quiet, which is really nice. Let's talk about two noticeable mechanics that exist throughout the entire campaign. Notice is the first one. So, notice put most simply is kind of just a balancing tool. That's probably the quickest way to sum it up. Essentially, to go with the conspiratorial nature of the campaign, the better you do, the more eyes, the more agencies, the more people that shouldn't start to notice you. So you're like, Poggy, we got 8 experience on this scenario. We're doing really good. The campaign guide is then going to give you more notice than if you got 6 experience or if you got 4 experience. Note I am pulling these numbers out of my butt, but it's kind of like, it's like that. So the better you do, the more you get noticed. The more notice you have, the more the scenarios might change, or the encounter deck might change, depending on how much you've been noticed. This was really fun for me, because in my first playthrough through Cyclopean Foundations, I got a lot of notice. And I interacted with the notice thing completely. Like, we were at high level of notice throughout the entire campaign. And there was a lot of really cool stuff that came with it. However, on my second run through Cyclopean Foundations, it instead changed to less notice. And this was mostly because in my first and second scenario, I didn't get enough experience. I still got a good chunk of experience. However, it wasn't balanced in a way that I didn't get the hard things because I didn't really earn them in a way. The game didn't feel like it needed to balance against me for doing so well. 2 things that I really like about this. It works very well gameplay-wise because it makes it a little bit different each time you play. Number 2, flavor-wise, that's really cool. Of course, if you kill a guy and you get a bunch of experience from it, and then you also snoop around areas grabbing up all the clues, someone's going to notice that, right? And I think that's a very accomplished mechanic at working well, feeling very good and balanced, feeling also kind of scary your first time through, but it's also not game breaking if you do too good. It's very nice. Second mechanic here is called non-Euclidean. This is after you move from a location, you must resolve all non-Euclidean abilities on that location. This is like a very simple mechanic, and it does beautiful things, especially in the first scenario. I think there's not much to say about non-Euclidean. I think it's just a very well-designed mechanic, and it shows up in the right places. If you play Dark Matter, it isn't like Scan. Scan is notice is kind of like this campaign's Scan. It's like the thing that's always there. Non-Euclidean shows up when it's necessary, and it feels really good when it does. It does show up very often. I'm not saying that it's only in a few scenarios. It shows up very often, but it's not like the hinge of the campaign, if that makes sense. Well, Notice certainly is. So yeah, I think this is a very, very, very good custom campaign. It's my blind playthrough of it. I loved it. This scenario, Lost Moorings, again, is absolutely just beautiful. It's a beautiful scenario. And it starts a campaign, while admittedly, for me, doesn't, like, it has the moments where, like, it has the scenarios where I kind of feel a little bit down on them. There's no stinkers in this custom campaign. Even the ones that I didn't enjoy personally, I can tell for a fact that other players will enjoy. So you might. Likewise, the scenarios I love, you might not. I can feel pretty confident, though, that you'll enjoy Cyclopean Foundations. So I highly recommend it if you're looking for something to play as you wait for Scarlet Keys to come out and you have access to Tabletop Simulator. You can get it there. I think they're also, I don't know if there's a print and play yet. I'm gonna message Beard after this and get all that information. But hopefully I remember to. You know, I mean, my brain's a sieve. But I think this is a very good custom campaign, and I think that you should play it, and I think you'll have a good time with it. I would probably, if I had to, so my pecking order for custom campaigns, this would be my second recommendation for new players. I think that this one is just really simple, really clean, and really ARKHAM. It's very ARKHAM. It fits perfectly in the Arkham Files landscape. It doesn't feel strange at all. It's really nice. So yeah, shall we start the spoilers? I think we should start the spoilers. So, if you do not want to get spoiled, get the heck out of here, but be sure to drop a like and a subscribe and all that, because, you know, I would love the support for the channel. It would mean a lot to me. We release a new Arkham Horror video every day of the week. But now, it's spoiler time. Okay, so my hope is that in this spoiler-free discussion, it's going to in this spoiler-filled discussion, I'm just going to go quickly and touch on the things I like and the things I didn't like about the scenarios and all that, and what I thought was really cool with them. So, as we're loading in here, Lost Moorings. During my preamble, I hyped this one up a lot. I love this scenario. It might be strange to say this, but this is my favorite scenario in the campaign. It's a little bit strange, isn't it? To say that your favorite scenario is the first one. But this is, like, so incredibly accomplished as a scenario. So, you're exploring Arkham. You're at the docks. It just feels nice and, just good. Just, like, nice, classic Arkham horror. And then you eventually find a boat. And then you explore the boat. On the boat, we get our taste of the non-Euclidean stuff. And funnily enough, it's like only on this scenario. But one thing that I particularly love about the main deck of the Myra Louise is that this is a victory location. But every time you leave it, the non-Euclidean is very simple. You place a clue on it. This means that moving between them is bad news bears. Of course, as well, there are encounter cards. Let's see if I can find them quickly. Whoa. I found it right away. If you fail to take 1 damage, move to the connecting location with the lowest shroud value. There's things that force you out of it. It's just a really, really accomplished feeling of a scenario. Of course, there's also some guys on the boat that you need to fight. And then you can also find some crewmen. And the whole thing just works really well at building an environment, setting a mood of the rainy harbor of Arkham, while also giving you some enemies that are memorable. This guy is sort of like the acolyte for this one. We have this guy, the Wharf Rat, who is really fun to actually deal with. it's just like you can just get rid of him with a parlay. You could basically just be like, hey, man, get out of here. This is not where you want to be. It's just really cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff that happens in this scenario. Yeah, no, I love the intro to this one. I loved it the first time I played it, and I'll love it every time I played it. Okay, as I said, we're going to kind of just rocket through these so I don't ramble on more than I need to, right? Okay, going twice. This is a very, very unique scenario with a gimmick that does not at all trump gameplay. One thing I don't like in a lot of custom campaigns is gimmicks that trump gameplay. One thing I don't like in a lot of ARKHAM 2 is just gimmicks that trump gameplay, right? I like the gameplay of ARKHAM, and I want to play the game of ARKHAM. This is a really neat gimmick where... Let's just... you advance the agenda, and then when you do, it starts the auction, right? The auction triggers. And so how it's going to work is like basically at the auction hall, you can come and bid for things. If you bid for things, you have to be able to pay for it. And if I remember correctly, there's reasons you want to pay for it. Sometimes you're forced to bid on it. And it's just like a really fun mechanic that involves you like while exploring the O'Banion Lounge, the auction house, that you need to also be blending in, so to speak, which is really cool. It feels really flavorfully great how it has like this through line that carries over. So it's like we're investigating, but we're in the auction house, so we also have to blend in. And if we don't blend in enough, bad things happen. This eventually leads to you exploring the storage vault, where you find the Euclidean, non-Euclidean mechanic starts to become a bit more evil. And then you find what you're looking for, and then you can eventually, the warped idol, this guy right here. And then there is more things as you find the broker's office, and one of the O'Banions, this bright white card, who leads to you getting in or out. This is these countermeasures. These are the mechanics that the notice starts to impact you with immediately. So if you reach a certain notice threshold, you bring in a countermeasure for each class that exists in the team. So if you had a survivor and a seeker, you would bring in counterintelligence and counter effort. These each have an effect that only hurt that investigator class. It's basically like the personal weaknesses, like the class-specific weaknesses that we're seeing in Scarlet Keys, but just from the Mythos deck. They're very soft, but it's a nice little flavor of being like they're aware of who you are, and they're going to start taking advantage of that. And like they're going to start like figuring out how best to beat you. It's mechanically and flavorfully pretty elegant. I think that's like going back to what I said earlier, that this custom campaign is just elegant. It works really well. All right, private lives. So, I think this is the only scenario that I don't enjoy personally. But it's only because of my personal preference for the game of unkillable enemies. The damn TikTok men. Where are they? There we go. Set aside TikTok men. Where are those MFers? There they are. So yeah, these guys, they're considered to be at each location. After you defeat them, flip them over, and resolve the text on the other side. But basically, there's they're like always there, They're there, always on every location. Flavorfully, that's really cool. Mechanically, it also works very well. It's just my own personal preference, my own bias for ARKHAM. Like, I'm not going to say this scenario is bad just because it's not my preference. Because I think this scenario is really good. The first half of it is really just you really feel immersed in the game, in like the story and the mood of the situation. You're basically exploring someone's house, trying to find information after finding their dead body in their house. And then eventually you find out you're not the only one looking for it, and that's where the TikTok men come in. On this really zoomed in picture of this scan of the TikTok men from other Arkham Files games, I imagine. I think that this, I think overall this scenario is still very good, and there's a lot of really cool stuff about it. It's just not my preference. But it does flow really nicely. The enemies start to become really tricky here. There's some like really good enemies, which are surprisingly like difficult to deal with potentially, depending on while you're also trying to progress it. It might have been just the team comp I had, but it can be pretty tricky. And I think that once again, you can learn a lot about a campaign's designer when it comes to look at their encounter cards. And I think the encounter cards in this campaign are very good. I'm not going to like go through them and like look at them in great detail, because you still want some surprises. Even in a spoiler-filled review, you still want some surprises. This card is notable that I want to talk about. I like this guy. He's in your hand. He's a hidden enemy. And you basically just have to like get him out of your hand as he's like trying to like kill you. Like he's like pew 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 pew. He was like hired to kill you. It's a really cool mechanic. All right, let's keep the show going, shall we? With Crumbling Masonry. This is a really cool scenario where you are infiltrating the stonemasons. You know? Like this is like, if you know The Simpsons, the stonecutters, who controls the British crown? We do, right? It's the classic. I know that like stonemasons are like I believe like the Freemasons. Do I call them stonemasons? Freemasons. Why am I calling? Because I have the stonecutters. It brainwashed me. The Freemasons. So it has like the this is where it's like rooted in the real life events and conspiracy folklore, and it's a conspiracy. And some of them, a few of these guys, three of these old white men are bad news bears. Now I hear what you're saying, but Justin, all old white men are bad news bears. You ain't wrong. But three of them are bad news bears for Cthulhu reasons. As this is going to work, as this advances, you're going to be revealing. 1 second. Trying to just see where it happens. Oh yeah, no. You can spend clues to reveal more, and then if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm just remembering this one wrong for some reason. I did get absolutely curb stomped my second time through it, so my memory of it is pretty vague. But basically, you want to find more... you want to find the cultists. And the goal is to find the 3 cultists and get them out of there before they all turn into traitors. Or before they all, like, escape. You have a limited number of time to get them and get them out. Or like defeat them before they escape and they continue their conspiracy. This is where we also see some more stuff coming into the in case with the notice. So if you have low notice, you have possible threat. These cards mostly have the same text. When you enter cultist location or vice versa, reveal marked possible threat and place 1 doom on that enemy. Place 1 doom, place 1 doom. But you'll notice that the better you're doing, this becomes a 1 action when you have low threat, 2 actions when you have medium threat, and 3 actions when you have high notice. So like you can see where the notice mechanic is continuing to build. Okay, where are we next? Across Dreadful Waters. This is a really cool campaign, a cool scenario. And I think it's my second favorite scenario in the campaign. This one's a little bit hard to describe simply, But I think a best way of going about it is if we just go to the campaign guide and kind of just go through it. So you are taking a trip because you have learned that you need to go to Singapore, because that is where the cultists are starting to do their really bad, awful thing. You get to choose 3 routes. You can go the most direct route, the most populous route, the least predictable route to throw off the bad guys. Then you basically have like different spots you visited, right? So it starts in Kingsport before you go and you get on the boat. Then you can go to Las Palmas, Cape Town, Zanzibar, Gibraltar, Port Said or Said. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. Bombay, Cologne. I don't know how to pronounce it either. Suva, Sydney. And each one of them have their own different objectives. And you take different routes depending on the route that you go, which is really cool. In addition, to continue more of that wonderful elegance that this campaign has, this only has one agenda. It only has one agenda for the entire thing. And it's balanced in such a way that everything is doable with this one agenda. Basically, every time you go to a new location, you get to remove all doom. What was it? Remove all doom from the current agenda. So basically, every time you finish at a location, whether that be Kingsport, Las Palmas, Cape Town, Zanzibar, you basically just reset it. And they're all designed to work at the doom count on this one card. That's incredible. That's so cool. It's really well designed. I've done 2 of the 3 routes, and all of them are fun. I've enjoyed all of them. It's a good time. I highly recommend this scenario as well. One of my favorites in the box. If I had to choose one besides the first scenario, it would be this one. It's really good. Okay. Blood from Stones. This one, my first time through, I didn't enjoy it. My second time through, I had a great time. I think this one... Get out of here, Zanzibar. I think this one is really cool. So how it works is the cultists are here in... Let's see where we find. Are we in Singapore now? Yes. They've basically put a big old barrier magic shell over the city. And we need to break it. And to break it, you get 3 random quests, which all seem particularly tricky. However, they're all very doable. Again, it's just elegant design in how it all works, and it's all doable, and you have to kind of bend your brain a bit to get it done. So that's what I really like. My first time through, I was a little bit too salty about it, because I was like, this seems impossible and I need to bend my game to do it. However, my second time through, I started to really appreciate that forced bend on it, because ultimately this one isn't a gimmick in the sense that it's like, you need to drive your car through Singapore to do this, right? Instead, it just kind of like asks you different ways of being like, hey, how are you going to solve this problem with a limited sense of... Like with a tweaked goal. It's not just the traditional get clues, kill a boss. You're going to have to do different things to get there. And the game asks, how are you going to do it? And I think it does it in a really good way. I do think I'm excited for a third one to see if my enjoyment of it sticks. But I really enjoyed Blood from Stones on my second time through. Pyroclastic Flow. Here's the volcano. So this one's a little bit strange. It starts with a boat ride. And while it works really well, it feels like fine. It's just a little bit strange to me. Because, like, it plays really well. And flavorfully, it works really well. It's just a little bit of like a strange opening. But I think I would miss it if it was gone. Pyroclastic Flow is the scenario that I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. So I'm excited for a third playthrough. The second half has you going through. You land near the volcano, and it asks once again, while still playing ARKHAM, how can you solve this problem? So, like, you can't move into the location, which feels actually, like, really cool. I think it looks something like this, if I remember correctly. I think it's something like this. And it asks these questions where it's like, you can't go in here, and you just flip to the next one. And it gives that feeling of, like, the non-Euclidean space and kind of, like, disorienting nature that these scenarios often want to provide in a way that I think works really well. My blind play of this one, before some of the changes, I had a really rough time with this one. I do think that I did mechanically much better. There were some tweaks made on the replay, on the latest version, and I think it's now in a very nice state, but I still personally don't know how I feel about it yet. I do think I had a good time when I played it the second time, but it is a very... I don't think it's like a bad penultimate scenario. I think it's just a very strange one for me, in my mind. It has a cool moment where all the cultists you didn't kill come back near the end. And it's like not game breaking if you didn't kill any of them. Because that's what happened to me on my last playthrough. I did not defeat any of the cultists. And I actually wasn't hurt by them. But it felt like a cool moment. But I wasn't like crushed by it. So I think that's just really nice, clean design that works really well. Okay. Last scenario. Tomb of Dead Dreams. And I think this one might be the hardest to kind of understand. But basically, how I've set it up each time. And I think this was on a recommendation from from Beard, if I remember, or someone in my chat said you should play it like this. So basically, this one has a very strange gimmick where the marker of your investigator, the position that it in matters. So your marker's your investigator's marker. Here, let's just make Roland bigger. Your investigator's marker matters. So you can only get... Do that. That's better. That's more... I had these the wrong way. Yeah, this is the way to do it. Your investigator's marker can only get clues if their alignment matches that of their location. So this one down here is considered to be like down. So Roland can only get clues from this one if his marker is also like this. So like if I was here, I could not get clues unless my investigator's marker was this way. While this is happening, big old Daddy Cthulhu is in the middle trying to chomp your bits. He's trying to just eat you up. How it works is that, like, he's a slow waker. He takes his time. And each Mythos phase, he kind of changes the direction he's facing, right? So, like, this one says up, but let's just say it said left. So in this one, he's then considered to be at these locations. As you progress further, he wakes up more and more, until if it takes you too long, he wakes up at every location each Mythos phase. You can, of course, still evade him, but you do it in a really cool way where you match the inescapable reach at your location, so it's facing... I guess these two are the only ones that were wrong. These you flip it so it's down, so he's no longer at any of those locations. This makes you really work for it, and I think it's a very daunting, complicated final scenario your first time through. The blind run on this one is as disorienting as the non-Euclidean geometry of Rillia is. Like, it really is. But I think it works really well on second playthroughs. I think it's a very cool, very video gamey final boss. And I think it's just a really fun, good scenario to close out the campaign. I think we've done it. Again, to echo what I said at the start of the video, I do think that this is a very good custom campaign, and I definitely think it is worth your time to check it out. I really enjoyed Cyclopean Foundations, and I hope you enjoy Cyclopean Foundations too. As has been tradition, I'm expecting and hoping, Beard and I have already talked about it, have an interview with Beard coming out maybe October. I'm going to talk about the design process and how they approached a lot of the things in this campaign. So if you're interested in that, make sure to follow and subscribe. Subscribe, like, comment, all the things to feed the algorithm. In the meantime, have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate the support. Huge thank you to all of our patrons as well. If you want to join our Patreon, you can find a link down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. And as always, a GG's.